everyone, and welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as you know me, John Zedzer. We're coming to you live once again from our famous Dialogue Den here in our studio. Now, today's episode is a monumental one because we've been walking you through the tariff implications, Liberation Day, the 90-day pause, and then this meeting that initially was not supposed to be a meeting about trade, it's supposed to be about fentanyl and the regulation of fentanyl. Now, today's episode of this past weekend, we witnessed what might become one of the most significant developments in global trade in over a century. United States on one side, China on the other. Nations long seen as locked in an escalating financial Cold War have reached what's being called a historic trade agreement. While the full details remain under wraps, this just happened this weekend. The announcement alone is enough to send shockwaves through global markets, policy circles, and the geopolitical order. Now, to understand how historic this could be, we have to remember that we've been engaged in this. We've survived one, but now are we on the brink of another Cold War, as we've coined it here at the Perseverance Mindset Podcast, a financial Cold War. The first one was defined by nuclear arms and iron curtains. This one we're currently in, the second, this quiet war fought with tariffs, tech restrictions, and digital supremacy. A war where supply chains turned into weapons and semiconductors became more strategic than steel. We also watched the rise of the aftermath of NAFTA. For those of you unaware, the North American Free Trade Agreement, promised as a breakthrough in economic cooperation, and it was a hollowing out of much of America's working class backbone. Factories closed, jobs vanished, communities suffered. What was sold as prosperity, well, that wasn't prosperity. It became pain. But now, finally, we may be standing at a new crossroads. And at the heart of this movement, our current president, Donald Trump, not just as a political figure, but a lifelong businessman who has been railed against bad trade deals for decades, the 80s, the 90s, and now, as president, once again, he may have just delivered a massive diplomatic win that could rewrite the rules of global trade. Also along for the ride in this fight, in this key journey, is Trade Secretary Scott Bessent, a key player in this weekend's negotiations and one of the few negotiators that Trump sent to Switzerland. And he was quoted in saying at the beginning of our episode, "I'm happy to report that we've made substantial progress between the U.S. and China in the very important trade talks, in these talks." Again, they mentioned that they'll be giving more details tomorrow, but I can tell you that the talks were productive. And more importantly, that's huge. Today, we're unpacking what's this potential deal includes, how long could it change the future of the global economy, and what tomorrow may look like for Wall Street and for Main Street and the world order at large. So let's dive into this. So exactly, as we don't know yet, as this weekend had just passed, now what are we in for? Now, what do we know so far? While the specifics are expected to be released this week over the next 24 to 48 hours, officials from both nations have confirmed that the U.S. and China have agreed to mutual tariff reductions, especially with this high tension on items such as semiconductors, rare earth minerals, and agricultural goods, even medical supplies. So this bilateral enforcement framework is being established to ensure compliance and a key sticking point for both sides. In the past failed talks, this was something that had led to the downfall of these discussions. China has agreed to open key sectors such as insurance, consumer tech, clean energy to U.S. firms. Massive development. Intellectual property protections will be tightened, a long-standing demand from American companies. Also reported on the table is a currency stabilization mechanism to prevent, I say this once and I'll say it again, competitive devaluation. Something that could bring more predictability to the global trading environment, and perhaps most notably, a commitment by both sides to strengthen cooperation in AI development, biotech standards, and digital infrastructure. This is such a great development. And again, we're just talking about some of the things we are hearing out there. So more details to come. So the economic competition doesn't evolve into technological warfare in this financial Cold War, could we be witnessing a winding down to the financial Cold War? So the global stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about trade, it's about the architecture of the next century for America and for China. And we've discussed this in past episodes in this financial Cold War with China. China has redefined global relations. Unlike the Cold War of the 20th century, today's conflict is built around economic leverage, not arms stockpiles. Bit of a difference. And make no mistake, the world has been choosing sides. Nations like India, Brazil, Germany are watching which system, state-backed authoritarian or free market democracy, can deliver more stability. Supply chains have been long all over the place around ideological lines. New trade alliances like BRICS and Indo-Pacific Economic Framework has emerged as responses to this tension. But that's why this past weekend's announcement matters so much, and we're not even beginning to understand it just yet. It suggests that two of the world's largest economies, despite the difference in this financial Cold War, despite the past of everything that's been happening between the two superpowers, are trying to avoid a decoupling that could fracture the planet into competing economic spheres. And let's not forget NAFTA's lesson. We believed that liberating trade would bring shared prosperity. Instead, America lost factories, communities, and hope. And working class dreams evaporated from the scene. But now, could this be the next groundbreaking deal for the next 50 to 100 years to a century? If this deal protects U.S. interests while building a fairer global framework, it could rewrite history, economic history itself. Now let's bring it home. What does this mean for all of our perseverance pioneers out there? In addition to the president saying that the competition with trade has been reestablished, if these terms hold, here's what it could see in the short term. When the markets open this week, a potential stock market surge, particularly in agriculture, technology, financial services, and logistics. We could see consumer prices stabilize with all the uncertainty that was being mentioned if these tariffs kept going and even went higher. I don't know if that's possible, but it could have been possible. A bump in U.S. exports, especially to Asian markets that have cooled due to tensions. But more than anything, this signals a return of trust, which is the currency that markets run on. In the long term, this could mean more secure and diversified supply chains, greater opportunities for small and mid-sized American manufacturers, which was the point of this, to compete better and more globally. A precedent for how to manage AI, cyber threats, and intellectual property across the borders of these two nations. This is how America competes again. Not through dependency, but through smart, strategic partnerships and alliances. Now, could all this be worth it? With everything that's been happening with the stock market, with everything that's been happening with all the uncertainty out there, we need to ask the hard questions. After years and years of economic pain, uncertainty, trade deals going south, tension, tariffs, and supply chain shocks, could it all been worth it if this agreement delivers on even half of what it's sought to do? The answer could be a resounding yes. With everything that we have endured, the American consumer, we've endured record inflation, a brutal trade war, growing fears of a financial Cold War sequel. But sometimes pressure produces progress. This deal might be a strategic pause, a moment where the two global rivals realize they must share the world, must come together in mutual beneficial terms, not split it up. And if it creates American jobs, secures our technology future, and brings predictability to the markets, it could be one of the most important geopolitical achievements of our generation. It could, if China acknowledges some of the trade negotiations that they have been unfair to the U.S. It could just as well lead in that direction. Perseverance pioneers, today we looked at history in the face and saw the possibility of peace through prosperity, as well as many of you on the show are known and aware of, peace through strength. If the financial Cold War tensions and the past failures of NAFTA were chapters of the past, then could this agreement this past weekend be the first page of the future? I'm highly optimistic, as should you be. As we wait for the full details to emerge, one thing is resoundingly clear. The United States is led by a president who is determined to seek better deals for the United States and will stop at nothing to fight for the agenda and campaign that he implemented in 2024. It may have just taken a giant leap forward on the world stage, not by force, but by negotiation. Perseverance pioneers, stay locked in. The world is watching, and we'll be here to break down all these developments as they unfold further. From the Dialogue Den, live from our studio, stay strong, stay informed, and above all else, stay persevering, everyone.